Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jean-Louis Vigneault.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jean-Louis Vigneault. I'm working in CA, mainframe business unit on the product management. And today in this presentation, we are going to have a closed loop into our DevOps solution. So what do you think about DevOps? When you hear the word DevOps, what do you think? Personally, I think of business agility and greater confidence you can deliver reliably and more frequently superb customer experience. And that's really a good driving into what the experience DevOps principles are enabling. And in this presentation, we'll summarize that in 3 points. The 3 A's: access, agility, and automation. When done right, DevOps enable your development team to access the development tools of their choice. The tooling enables improve the business agility through enabling greater collaboration and enabling people to understand, developers to understand the legacy application more easily. And to conclude on that, all these processes are relying on automation, high level of automation, to deliver more frequently with higher quality. But before I start this presentation, I would like to introduce my co-presenter, Steve, from HSBC. Steve is a well-known CA champion as it comes to CA and Devo. And maybe a few words on you, Steve.
Yes, thanks very much. I'm just here to give the customer's perspective. Anybody hear me? So there we go. Is it not switched on? It's on now? Okay. So I'm here to give it from the customer's perspective. You'll have CA's perspective, which is the presentation, and then my perspective as a customer.
Okay, so let's start. I'm guessing you have seen these slides, I hope, since we represent the vision of CA technologies with the modern mainframe software factory. In this presentation, we will be focusing on the agility part of these slides, focusing on how do we increase innovation velocity to deliver new services to customers. So how do we do that? Well, first, by providing developer tools to deliver insight on the code, to facilitate understanding of legacy code. We'll provide test automation to automate the release cycle. We'll provide continuous integration, continuous deployment in a release pipeline for more frequent releases. And we'll provide feedback loop from ops to development, and I'll show you later in the presentation some example to enable more frequent feedback and a more frequent reaction from the development team on what's going on. So that's what we are talking about here. And by doing so, there are many areas where you can improve. We can moving from waterfall process to an agile process. We can move from manual deployment to automated on-demand deployment. We can move from long lead time waiting, few months to get stuff in the code to ability to deliver more frequently, the monthly releases to daily and weekly releases, difficulty to train the developers to more simpler, more easier onboarding of developers, moving away from siloed resource, dealing with poor documentation, and reducing the cost of development. So Steve, let's pick 3 of those. Let's say waterfall to agile, the manual deployment, and the monthly releases back to daily or weekly releases.
Well,
What's your experience?
What I want to say about this slide is it's pretty negative, isn't it? If somebody from distributors passing right now, they're looking at this and this is everything wrong with the mainframe. The reality of the world is it's not like this. Really, you're probably somewhere in the middle of this. And at HSBC, we are more on the automated side. But yeah, if you just look at something like Waterfall and Agile, you've probably got something in between it, and you've probably been doing that for a long time. But then, looking at manual deploys, monthly releases, do you need to change those? That's a question you need to ask, because the way that you do something right now might be the right way to do it. And you've got to think about the risk associated with that as well. The mainframe is known for its stability, but not just for the hardware, for the software that's running on it. So if you're going to increase the speed you deploy things at, you're potentially making it more risky. So it's your risk appetite if you want to speed these things up and change into where the distributed guys are doing 10 deploys a day for one application. Do you want to do that on your mainframe? You can, but do you want to?
Okay, thank you, Steve. So let's move on. How we are going to bring that all together? Well, bring that all together with DevSecOps. I'm not going to spend too much time on the benefit of DevOps, assuming everyone, is acknowledging the benefit of DevOps. But a few words still, speed to market, new business growth, operational efficiency are traditional benefits of DevOps. So how do we bring that all together in a successful implementation of DevOps? That's back to the 3A I was referring to initially in the intro of my presentation. Easy access to the tools of their choice for the development team. It's about agility, business agility, enabled, fostered by team collaboration through the tooling and by application understanding. And that's automation. That's automating the processes for higher quality and for more frequent releases. And back to your point. So Steve, what's your take on that?
So, I've been thinking about this week. So the access to the mainframe. So on our raw development side, we've got a single IDE in our DevOps pipeline. And that seems like a good choice to me. The less tools you've got, the easier it is. The easier it is to support. It kind of makes sense. Right now, everyone's talking about more tools in this space. So I'm kind of interested in what everybody else's opinion is on that. It's going to cost more, both as a physical cost and a support cost. So is that what the developers really want? So maybe it is. But I think right tools for the right people as well. So, and this might be controversial, but I'm not sure that I agree it's the right thing to sort of dumb down a terminal emulator on a mainframe to a right click to run a Rex. It's a complex machine, the mainframe, and maybe it'll help the developers to learn about it a bit more if they're using it in the complex environment that people have always used it in. So it's a unique machine. It's not the same as a server. You're not in a startup teardown scenario. And the thing I've got written here is, it's not a cog in a bigger picture. The mainframe is the big picture. Automation. Yeah, so on Z series, there probably isn't a shop in business that hasn't automated some of this. It's low-hanging fruit. In Endeavor, you've probably got a compile process in COBOL, and you can just add more from that point. Automated testing. But that automation piece, as I kind of alluded to, isn't free. You've got to create it to start off with. So I think you've got to think hard about whether you want to automate everything, the cost that comes with that, high level of support with automated processes. I think then agility. This is the step change in your culture of your organization. So it's coming from a high level. Somebody saying, we want to change, we want to be agile on the mainframe. We can help with that process, but I think it's why we use the words like Wagile and Scrumathon on the mainframe, because we know we're kind of halfway there, we're not really there, but do we need to be there? It's a lot of these are questions straight back at you, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you for your point of view, Steve. So let's move into this presentation. So in CA, we do provide solution that cover the entire DevOps cycle from planning to development, testing, release management, operation, security, and so on. So that's what we're going to talk about in this presentation, is how CA development tools enable you to achieve what we have been talking about here. I'm going to use and leverage this slide to talk about the new announcements we are making in this conference. We are announcing CA Atomic Release Automation. So they have been releasing a new version and with improved mainframe support. So that's one good aspect here. We have a new version of mainframe operational intelligence, which not been scope of this presentation. We have a CA Privileged Access Manager being announced as well. And we're also talking about a partnership with CAST, which really here relate to helping developers on board quickly and as well managing the risk of making change to the code. So let's move to the next topic here and the first topic, which is about how do we support planning rapidly and developing swiftly. So in that scope, it's all about going agile.
So
your point.
Yeah,
so let's what in our mainframe BU, we have implemented scaled agile framework environment, to enable us to do agile at scale, and that's really one of the first point here. Integration point here is you can leverage your agile management tools that are available on the distributed side and integrate them with your SCM system with Endeavor on the mainframe. And we do have ALC, application lifecycle conductor, that enable you to do this integration. So that's first point. You can integrate your mainframe into your agile development process in-house. The next step is about integrating with mainframe. We can provide dashboard, capabilities that allows you to see what's going on across the platform. And on onboarding quickly, we provide an Eclipse-based IDE, which enables young developers to quickly be able to update your COBOL code, your PL1 code, using all the advanced capabilities available inside such an IDE without having to go directly on the mainframe. And as well, we have been talking about CAST, providing the ability to understand the application structure. So when you have old application, old legacy application, 30 years old, you don't understand, no documentation, you don't understand what it is. CAST will enable you to have a better understanding of the application architecture. So, Steve, any point of view on that?
Always got a point of view. So, the development teams move into Agile. So, and this is what I was saying. Can you, should you? But do you need to? So, some systems only want to release on a monthly basis, and they follow a waterfall methodology, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So you've got to understand if you've got a need for it, if you've got a case for it, but don't do it because your distributed guys are doing it. Don't follow them. You need to understand if you need to do it, understand the pain points. And this was pointed out really well on Monday in the pre-conference education. There's a question about Agile and Endeavor, and it was listed out to the audience. And the answer was, well, Endeavor's already Agile, isn't it? So, yeah, you're already there, maybe. But it's this, are we slowing things down with what we've got on the mainframe, or could we just help speed things up? So maybe look at it the other way around. Where can we help speed things up?
Okay, thanks. So sharing our experience in the mainframe BU in CA Technologies, we have been implementing Agile, we have been implementing SAFe, and we are using Endeavor, as you are doing. And we are seeing benefits. We have been able to increase our time to market, we have been able to decrease our backlog, and we have been able to deliver more frequently, and as well to keep the quality and improve on the quality, not introducing new defects. So that's one of the key benefits here. Through the introduction of such methodology, we can have a much more reliable development process. So I'll introduce here, so what are we providing? We are providing CA development environment for C, for Z. We have been introducing it in the last user conference last year. So what is it exactly? It's an Eclipse IDE. It's an Eclipse IDE that provides you a rich, modern environment to edit your COBOL code, to edit your PL1 code that is integrated and interfaced with Endeavor, so you can go directly in Endeavor, find out the COBOL code you want to modify, perform the modification, save the code, launch the build. It's integrated with your Agile planning tool, so it could be CA Agile Central, or it could be Jira, if you should be using Jira. And it's integrated with all the developer testing tools running on the mainframe, FileMaster Plus, and Intertest, SimDump, and as well as mainframe application tuner. So this is the development environment that we do provide for these new developers arriving and onboarding on these projects. The next topics we'll cover is about testing early and often. So again, so what is it we are providing here? Well, we are providing the ability to quickly set up a test environment that emulate your production environment. And for that, we do have service virtualization, CS service virtualization that enable you to virtualize services you need to be able to run your testing. We do provide the ability to create and set up test data, either using CA FileMaster Plus or using CA Test Data Manager to enable you to have the test data you need to run your test. As well, we support the automation of the execution. We can use CA Agile Requirement Designer, and Mike Gregoire was referring to it in his keynote this morning. So that's a way for you to define the test cases you want to be able to run, and you can automate the execution of those test cases using your release automation tool. And as well, we provide security, ability to secure your apps, by scanning the code, finding out if you have any security issues, leveraging Veracode, CA Veracode for this purpose. And we also have the ability to secure your data. If you need to be compliant with GDPR, all this regulation, your test data cannot have personal information, so we can mask this data leveraging CA Test Data Manager. Steve.
So this is one of the slides where there's nothing to see here, is there? But it needs saying because people forget that testing's just your biggest pain point. You're looking at your pipeline, testing's the hardest piece in any development, not just mainframe. So obviously you need to do some testing. When I looked at this in our company, this is what I found interesting. We'd already created automation tools back in the day, and they were fantastic. And when I tried to track them down, they didn't exist anymore. Why? Because there was no value in it. We've moved from developing applications to putting them in maintenance mode. So the cost versus value proposition isn't there anymore. The cost of maintaining automated tools is expensive. The cost of maintaining test tools specifically is the most expensive. You need your SMEs who understand your data models, and you need people who understand your entire system, not to document it, to put into the tools. So we're looking at this again. We're looking again at sort of repeating the loop, cyclic loop of IT, as everybody knows. What goes around comes around. We're now again looking at what tools can we buy and how can we put all of that knowledge from the past back into these systems. But is it worth it? You've got to ask yourself that question. Because the mainframe's different to distributed. In distributed, what happens is you have an entire application that's deployed at once. On the mainframe, what happens is you may deploy just one piece of code as a change. Now, if you're just introducing new functionality, you can probably get away with just testing that new piece of functionality, presuming that that works, put it into live. You can be pretty agile with that as well. So I think overall, testing, it's an interesting piece. Maybe it's not as painful as it sounds. It depends on how much testing you're doing, how much change you're experiencing in this space.
Yeah, I guess, yes. To your point, if you evolve, if you change, evolve on a frequent basis your code, test automation is certainly...
It's very much worth it. Yeah.
Yes, worth it. And if you don't change or very infrequently your code, you wonder, if it's necessary. Okay, understood. So moving to what is it we are providing? We are announcing in this conference the availability of visual debugging, which is a new capability that we're introducing in a CA development environment for Z. So now the developers have the ability to see their code at the execution level, to see how the control flow of the code is done, and therefore provide them with easier understanding of the application and the ability to more easily debug when something goes wrong. So that's a new capability we are introducing, and I'm sure that if you go on the demo booth here, you will be able to see it live. So the next point we are going to talk about is the ability to release reliably. And certainly that's one of the important topics here. It's all about streamlining your releases, so you can use your application release automation tool of your choice. It's all about providing zero-touch and sequential parallel deployment for the ZOS apps. It's supporting rollback if something goes wrong. It's about automation orchestration across multiple platforms. It's about improvements of the team process, with continuous delivery best practices. And as you increase the frequency of your deliveries, you want to be able to have quick feedback through a dashboard, and as well understand what's going on when you have issues and have all this information. So I'm taking ability to release reliably is something that's important from your point of view.
Absolutely, reliability is key to it. But you can do that on both an automated side and a manual side. So you really just need a process for the manual side to do it. But because we use Endeavor, the one thing that's built into the DNA of this product is its release capability.
Yes. And
that's what it does. If you want to put some code somewhere by a package shipment, it just does it. You need some configuration, but you can do that. As I say, manual or automated, you're able to do this. I think my story is this year we've built a system to manage the release process. It's the glue, if you like, between Endeavor and the change management system. And guess where we built it? On the mainframe. So it's got times, it's got dates, it's got targets, where it wants to go, whether you want to hold it, whether you want to phase it into kicks. And it automatically ties into our change management system. So we've given it a name as well, ECP. So the first bit's Endeavor, change process. And guess what? People love it because it's on the platform of choice. It's on the mainframe. It's where they're working all the time. So what a great place to see real-time status updates of their releases. And we've also put an email notification on the end of it. So when your code deploys to production, the guys know that it's happened. They don't need to log on to the production systems to check and make sure that the infallible release process has actually worked. If they don't get an email, maybe the email system's gone down, or it may be that it's actually failed and there's been a problem. So we're really proud of that. It was a real accomplishment for us. And we've tied it directly into our pipeline. So it starts right at the beginning. You create the numbers at the start, and then it's reused at the end when you're doing the release management piece of actually putting it into production. Starts with the what, ends with the where and when.
Okay. And so that's the experience you have and the feedback you have on your own. Can you please comment, Steve, on your success here?
Yeah, I mean, it does sound great actually when you put it on screen like this. You sort of forget what you're doing on a sort of a daily basis. When you give somebody all the stats, they can put it together like this. So yeah, we do a lot of deployments. And I think the question was around the incident rate?
Yes, so my question is 2,000 deployment per month is fantastic rate of deployment. Great achievement here. My question was, still you are referring to incident rate, 2% or less than 2% of incident rate. Can you please comment on that? What are your remaining challenge and what is it you're striving for?
Well, my boss wants 0%, obviously, and my boss in the audience. But here's the thing, 75% of these are really just understanding issues, people not knowing what to do. You'll get that with any product. It doesn't matter what it is. So I can take that down to 0.25%. And here it is. Here's the conundrum. It's the automation piece, isn't it? All those magical pieces that I've automated, that we've put in there, when those go wrong, those create incidents. So this week, we saw a demo of Intertest, and the guy demoing it, the server failed. So the demo obviously started to go a little bit wrong. That's a real life situation. Servers do stop. Now, if you've automated all that piece, you don't know what to do. You've got to contact somebody and say, can you fix this for me? If you put so much automation in place, nobody knows how to fix it. You've got a real problem. So how do you manage that piece? But it's worse than that, actually. This 0.25% is because of our size. These numbers are large. We're probably one of the biggest organizations using Endeavor. We're pushing it to its limits and beyond. So this year alone, we've had high severity incidents where the system's gone down. We've got error messages that weren't cataloged. So those have been issues for us, but two good news stories. One is CA are working with us. They've got something called CXAB. It's a new program called the Customer Experience Advisory Board, and we're part of it. And we're working with them to understand and work better with them to manage this type of stuff. And the second thing is, because we've already had these problems, CA have fixed them. There's PTFs available, and you guys can just download them and fix your stuff. You've probably not even encountered them. So we're probably encountering these things before you do. I'll start to post them on the community so you can see what really went wrong, but I don't want to scare people sometimes. So that's the good news stories. Okay, so thank you on this very, very nice experience and very great achievement you are doing with in using Endeavor, and thanks for the feedback and continuously improving on this. So one of the things we are announcing in this conference is CA Atomic Release Automation. I don't know, I'm sure if you can go see our friend of the automation division. CA Atomic enables to manage complex dependencies of release flows. So one interesting point here is, and unlike what you're doing, you're deploying mainframe application on mainframe. CA Atomic enable you to deploy across platform, so from mobile to mainframe. So if you have any deployment process across platform, that's a perfect solution to enable, manage the complex dependency in such deployment scenario. You can schedule automated releases to align with your business calendar. You have end-to-end monitoring and control of your release process. You can repeat your release process. You can parameterize them. You have full documentation of what's going on. You have visualization of the workflows, and you can reuse, element of automation here. You have a comprehensive audit and reporting. So really, Atomic provides you with a lot of capabilities, a lot of features, that goes along with deployment automation. And the point is that it's working with mainframe. It's able to understand, the code, the load lib members, the JCL, the Rex code, the CList, and so on mainframe. So, that's certainly something worth investigating and complementary to Endeavor from that perspective.
So to summarize the solution we have been discussing about here, we have been talking about going agile, and we have been discussing, agile management solution. We do provide CA Agile Central, so you may want to use it, or you may want to use, or you may be already using products such as Jira. We have been talking about this modern development environment we do provide, based on Eclipse, providing you with all the capabilities to do unit testing, to do application analysis, visual debugging, integration with the testing tool on the mainframe. One thing we have not been talking about, which I'm going to talk about tomorrow, which is a complementary approach here, which would say instead of providing an IDE, an Eclipse IDE, we can also enable the users to use the tool of their choice. If the new generation of developers that have to infrequently go on the mainframe, and if they want to keep continuing using Visual Studio.code, or if they want to use IntelliJ to do their COBOL edit on the mainframe, with what we're going to talk about tomorrow, they can do it. So that's another variation of the solution here. We have been talking about continuous testing, and the products we have been referring to have been the CA Test Data Manager for generating automatically your test data, for masking your test data and being compliant. We have been talking about service virtualization when you have to test a complex environment with multiple services you want to virtualize because you don't want to have your full production environment in your test environment. We have been talking about security management, CA Veracode, the privilege access manager, and so on. And for continuous release, Steve has been talking about Endeavor and how we can leverage Endeavor to do continuous integration and the deployment through Endeavor. And I've also been talking about CA atomic release automation, and we also have CA release automation. So before I move on to the end of the presentation, I wanted to show you a brief demo highlighting how our solution can work all together through a very simple scenario. So let's go on with this demo. So in our case,
CA's end-to-end DevOps solution for mainframe is designed to make developers like myself as productive as possible. I've recently made a change to our Marbles inventory tracker app, and now I'm going through and testing all of the functionality. I can create marbles, I can add new marbles to the inventory, I can subtract them, and the new functionality that we added was the ability to delete a marble. So I'm just going to check and see if that functionality is working after my change. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the delete button. Doesn't seem to be working. Nope. What do we have here? It looks like we have an append. So I'm going to click the link, and it's going to take me directly to my IDE, where I can see that the system has opened a defect for me based on an append captured by SimDump. So let me just review the contents of the defect and see exactly what the problem is. I can see over here in the append report that I have an ASRA, and I can see all the details I need. I think I know what the problem is. Let me just let my team know that I'll be working on that defect by marking it as in progress. Once I've updated the Agile tool, I'm going to click on my CA Endeavor SCM perspective, where I can work with the source code checked directly into Endeavor. First, I'm going to mark my project with a change control ID corresponding to the defect ID. This will allow the system to track any change that I make against that defect, so that when I close the defect, it can be automatically built and deployed to my test environment. So I'm going to open up my program, and I can see I have left a little to-do marker here from when I was coding. And in fact, I had a little unit testing that I was doing, and I had meant to uncomment this, but I obviously forgot to do that, which caused the append. So I'm just going to go ahead and fix this and save it. And of course, as I do that, that's checking in a new version in Endeavor tagged to my defect. So now I can go ahead and I can close the defect. So I'll go and I'll mark the defect completed. And that in turn is going to send a notification to my pipeline. And my pipeline tool is actually going to take the changes that I made and build a Endeavor package, which will cause the build and deployment out to my test environments. So over here you can see we haven't got a package yet, but if I refresh, we can see that a package has been created and executed. Here we see the changes moving through the automated pipeline defined in CA Continuous Delivery Director and CA Atomic Release Automation. I'm getting feedback in my Agile collaboration tool. Here, for instance, I can see that the pipeline has notified me that the change was deployed out to our development environment and passed all of our automated unit tests. So let's try the operation again. I'm going to click the delete button, and this time I'm hoping that the marble will get deleted, and it did. So clearly our fix worked. From this quick demonstration, you can see that CA's mainframe DevOps suite keeps developers moving at maximum velocity without ever having to touch a green screen.
Okay, thank you. So you have seen here, in real use case of how a solution, how they are tightly integrated. It starts with an aband in the testing environment that automatically create a defect. So that's one of the things. We were talking about feedback loop. And that's here one of the capability. We can monitor events in the testing environment, in the production environment, and automatically create a defect with all the information a developer would need to have. Developer is automatically notified, so we have shortened the cycle, reporting the issue, recording the issue, and enabling the developer to jump in its IDE, in the IDE to directly work on it, fully integrated, saying I'm working on it, doing the modification of the code, saving the code, and just starting the continuous integration pipeline and going through the pipeline, promoting the code back to the test environment where I can see the defect has been fixed. So that's an example of what the power of this Eclipse IDE and the integration you have. One IDE, all the capabilities available into it, very, very quick edit, debug, build a cycle from this IDE. So that's conclude this presentation, and I'm opening the floor here for question. And just before we move to the question, let's just refer to all the demos you can see on this show floor here.